right, boys, that was a chaotic game, but dubs only, right? We came out with the W, that's the important takeaway here, but there are a lot of things to get into. I think a lot of really good performances from guys we haven't seen much of lately or that we didn't expect much of today at all, and we're going to get into all of it today and talk about our boys in Blaugrana. And overall, I think it was a good match. It all started with this red card that happened in the 17th minute, and I think it's important to address that first because it really changed the game, where Dani Olmo was running in behind. It was a good ball in, or first ball to Lewandowski that he flicked in behind for Dani Olmo. Dani Olmo ran around his defender and then was pulled down or went down, you could argue, and we saw a red card for the defender. Now, I think Dani Olmo throws himself to the ground. I think there's a lot of contact there, and because there is a lot of contact, there's nothing that I think VAR or anyone could really do about that. I don't think they're going to change that in any significant way because there is a ton of contact on the player, right? It's not enough to be able to call that off completely, to say that the red card was wrong because there's so much contact. I think it's similar to Barcola and Araujo, the red card that happened during the PSG match last year, where there is a lot of contact, but the player does look like he throws himself to the ground, but there's enough contact, right? There is enough contact. It's not the exact same thing, but I do think it is enough in this case for red. Real Madrid TV and whatever, people on Twitter are going to disagree with it, but realistically, I think that's the call to make. And it did change the game. It made it a lot easier for Barcelona, where there was some threat before that by Real Sociedad. They did technically score, but it was offside, so it didn't really matter. But they looked decent, where they were creating something or had some of the ball. And then Barcelona weren't as threatening while they had 11 players on the pitch, but that changed significantly, and from that point on, it was all Barcelona's game easily. From there, Chesney was just having a cigarette in goal the entire time because it didn't matter what he was doing. They didn't have a single shot on goal that wasn't offside. It's a really impressive performance from the boys. Yes, they were playing a man up, but still, they took advantage of it well. We've seen teams struggle through it. We've seen Barcelona struggle through it in the past. They handled it well today, and we're going to go through the ratings right now. Starting with Chesney, 7, did what he needed to do because there wasn't what he needed to do. I'm glad he got it just to hang out back there and do what his heart desired, I guess. And then the back line, it's an interesting story here where we have a lot of goals and assists back here for guys that I didn't think would have even had a chance to walk away with it. But starting with Koundé, I think he had a solid attacking performance, was important on the ball, rotated and gave Lamine a little bit of an option. 7.5 I think is very fair, and it's hard to give much more than that, but I think he put in a pretty solid performance. And then Araujo, I'm going to give him a 7.5 as well. I don't think he was incredible. I don't think he did a ton of defending, though. He did technically score and assist, though his assist was a deflected shot, and his goal was a rebound off the keeper from a header by Lewandowski. But it was a good header back in. It wasn't exactly the most inspiring thing. And these guys had so little defending to do that it's really hard to rate them on that solely. So yeah, realistically, I think a 7.5 is again fair, but he did get a goal and an assist, and I think it's good for him to get a little bit of that confidence back. As we'll get into later, I think one of the other players could really use what Araujo got today. But solid performance, same for Kubarsi as well. Did a decent amount of defensive work in the beginning, but again, there wasn't a ton to do after the 17th minute, and then he was taken out early as well just to rotate him, and I'm glad Flick did that. So I think a 7.5 is fair for him. Gerard Martin, though, I'm going to give him an 8 because I criticized him literally seconds before he scored the opening goal, and it was a good finish. He put a good strike on it. There were a couple other instances, too, where he put decent strikes on the ball. I literally said during the live stream today on Big Up, link in the description if you want to join, that why is he shooting? I was saying everybody has to shoot because Lewandowski and Rafinha were just passing it around. They were taking tokas in the box, not doing anything. Martin was the one who shot. I was like, don't shoot. I don't want him shooting, and then he ended up scoring. So I'm happy with him getting the goal, and he looked good today. I think he easily deserves an 8, and he's like slowly getting into this profile of a player that looks a little bit better game in and game out, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with having a little bit more confidence in our backups than I did earlier this season, and I'm getting that today. Now, Marc Casado looked solid as well. We know he did get his first goal for the senior team, but it was a deflected shot off Dani Olmo. That being said, I think he did play well today. We saw some defensive recoveries from him. We saw a lot of fouls. I think he's lucky to get out of this game without a yellow card. I think you could argue that he should have had one in the first minute and a half, but overall, solid performance from him again. Great game. This is such a good game for him to be able to just give this team some variety and some rotations. And that's something we really haven't had in the past, have really quality backups Casado is showing that he's at the very least a quality backup, if not a starter in some matches. So good job from him today. I think an 8 is fair. And Pedri, my guy, 8.5. Just a great game from him. He's just popping up in the weirdest positions, making the best passes, the best decisions, and always with the cleanest touches on the ball. He's so good at this game. Need I say any more? Dani Olmo, though, is my man of the match. My guy was clean today. He came out with 2 assists. Probably could have had a lot more than that as well. Really good game, really solid performance from him, and I just want to see him play more, be healthy, and do his thing. Hansi Flick's doing his weird magic health science thing. We'll see how that goes with him, but if it's anything like Pedri, it should be a pretty good story. Now, moving to the forward line, it's an interesting conversation because I think I was frustrated for a little while where they were just really possessing it. I don't know, just taking too much time in the box, making passes, taking too many touches, doing too much instead of just ripping it first time. And yeah, so it still worked out. We won 4-0, but I would have liked a little bit more cohesion there. Rafinha, I think he was solid, but again, I don't think it was a perfect performance from any of these guys, but a solid performance nonetheless, just like the back line. 7.5 because they linked up well, and they looked decent, right? They looked almost really good, but fine nonetheless. I'll take it, obviously. Rafinha, 7.5. Lewandowski, I'm going to give him an 8 because I think he looked pretty good today in link up. He's not perfect, guys. He's really easy to criticize, I think, but that doesn't mean he's bad in any way, and yes, he's not the perfect solution, but today he linked up well. He put the ball in for Dani Olmo and played off his teammates pretty well today, where he looked a little bit better than normal. Not great, not perfect by any means, but good enough. Scored as well, but it was another deflected shot, I think. But a goal is a goal, right? A stat padding is stat padding, and we don't want to see Mbappe win the Pichichi, so I'll take it. And Lamine is an interesting story, where, again, I think he was off it today a little bit. He is fasting for Ramadan, and so it's not exactly the most ideal situation for him, but he looks okay. He's just taking so many shots, it's frustrating. He looks like someone who could desperately use some stat padding, and he's not really getting it right now. He's taking a lot of shots on his left foot, cutting in onto his left foot. It looks a little bit more than normal, and he's becoming a little bit more predictable. I'm not saying he's not finding space, he's not putting good balls in. He is, and he beat his defender incredibly well for one of the goals and created space for his team very well. He's dribbling really well, especially today when he's fasting. And he might not be the most in the most form as he normally would be, but he needs a goal, and hopefully it comes. But he still looked good nonetheless. He's shooting a ton, but he still looks good. He's frustrating at times, but he still looks really good. I think an 8 is very fair for him. But Dani Olmo is my man of the match of the starters, but I can definitely get into some stuff about the subs because I think they were good as well. We saw Eric Garcia first come in for Pau Cubarsí, and I think that was a good move. I want to see Pau get rotated as much as possible. There were some rotations I wish were made by Flick, but overall, he did a decent job. I wish Lamine Yamal came out, especially fasting. I don't think he should be playing 90 minutes. I think he's apparently played 90 minutes in the past 5 games. That's too much football. So maybe we start thinking about that for the Benfica match, but they want to win that. That's a big, he's going to start. We know that. He's going to play probably 90 minutes there. Not the best work on Hansi Flick's part for that, but Eric Garcia thought it was good. Again, very little defending from these guys, but Eric Garcia did his job. Frankie de Jong as well. I think he looked good. He was playing in the Pedri role, so a little bit more forward of Casado and making those runs in behind, being a little bit more attacking or more threatening with his press as well. Good work from him. Same for Ferran Torres, who missed a couple of chances, again, as per usual, but he wasn't playing as a striker, so you feel less upset about it, I feel like. But he looked good. He looked good filling in spaces, connecting with his teammates, connecting with Lewandowski at times. I like Ferran Torres, right? He's not a perfect player either, but having this depth here and these guys finding the form is so important to being able to compete in all these competitions that we're playing in. Like Real Madrid are struggling right now with health and having a lot of players that are succeeding or linking up well or connecting all across the pitch. And it makes me question how well they'll succeed in every competition. But Barcelona and Atletico Madrid for that matter, are finding ways to do that with subs that are excelling and, just game shapes that they can work into throughout the game or in different matches. Really well done from this side. And Fermin Lopez and Hector Fort. Fermin Lopez more so, I think he looked good. And then Hector Fort looked fine on the right side. Didn't really do a ton, but, you can't be that critical of him for that. Overall, I think it's a really good performance from Barcelona. It's an easy performance from Barcelona. It's exactly what I want from these guys before a big match against Benfica. It feels maybe less huge, but because it's Benfica. It's not necessarily the most threatening team, but I don't think these guys are going to underestimate them. They shouldn't, because we've seen what happens against this team when they're not on it perfectly. And so we'll see how they show up in midweek. Again, I'll be live on Big Up. I think this is the perfect game for them to go into that with, because this was a lot of fun for me to watch. I'm sure these guys just vibed the whole time. There was less pressure on them. They were moving less. It's easier to work with, and this is what you want before going into a big match. So hopefully we come out against Benfica well, and I'll see all you guys live there, hopefully on Wednesday, I think. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.